Hey guys, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. Hope this thing is working. This is Lee with Core. I am the CEO and one of the lead facilitators of Core. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about this idea about why we as men get derailed by women, um, by impacted by women, kind of knocked off of our base by women sometimes, and not necessarily in a good way, right? So there's a way of getting knocked off our base that's enchanting and wonderful and oh, it's love and whatever that may be. I'm talking about a different dynamic right now. It's that idea of when we get emotionally derailed in the presence of women. And this happens to us as men, happens to all of us in one way or another. And so, what do I mean by getting emotionally derailed, knocked off base? It's that feeling of being off center, or perhaps I lose myself. I lose a sense of who I am. I suddenly feel really small. I kind of disappear. And all of us as human beings, get knocked off base from time to time. And specifically today, now I'm looking at this way that this happens for us as men in the presence of women. And why does this happen? What's going on? And most importantly, share a few thoughts about what we can do about it. And that's the most important part, right? We don't have to live that way. So getting knocked off base, getting knocked off center, something that we've all experienced from time to time. And what's the reason? Well, we all have a wounding. We all have a past hurt. We didn't grow up in perfect lives with perfect childhoods, and we carry these wounds with us. And so anytime someone knocks us off a base or makes us, we end up feeling small or reactive or disappearing, it's because something got hit from a past time. And with women, as stereotypical as it may be to say, it all goes back to mom, right? I mean, it all goes back to childhood, right? So something happened there, something in that relationship, and that's an old wound. And it goes back there in some way, shape, or form. And that gets triggered in the present moment by whoever we may be with, who may be in front of us, who we may be interacting with, and whatever that relationship may be, maybe a romantic relationship or a work relationship or a family relationship. And so what's the problem? What's the problem when we get knocked off base, so to speak, emotionally speaking? Well, the problem is we're no longer effective and we're no longer dealing with the present moment. Because what happens when we have an interaction as men with a woman and we feel off center, we've now drifted off into usually one of two places, either thought or emotion, story or emotion. So we have an emotionally reactive self, or there's a lot of thought, a lot of ruminating goes on, and that tends to be story about the past or the present. So maybe you're a thinker. Do you ever find yourself kind of anxiety filled, thought filled, ruminating thinking? It's probably because we got knocked off base. Something triggered us, something hit an old wound in there, and it sends us off into one of these directions of either emotionally reactive or reacting by thought, by thinking. Well, so memory and emotion is where we tend to go, or in the world of story. Problem is that it doesn't make us effective because we're not dealing with the present reality. You may notice that when we get triggered by something, it takes us away from actually who and what is happening now and who is with us now. And all of a sudden, it's like we're not present. And this can happen to us as men in the presence of strong women. And there's a whole female shadow and a male shadow. That's conversation for another day. But this is part of the way we wound each other sometimes. And it happens to us as men. And the first thing I want to tell you, this is totally normal. Happens to all of us. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel this happening. But perhaps men in particular these days have a little bit of an extra challenge because we could say it's socially okay to talk about the way that men have hurt women, and we certainly have, historically speaking. That's more acceptable today than perhaps talking about the way that women hurt men. And women do hurt men. We are on the receiving end of a lot of pain and suffering and badly treated, sometimes as kids, sometimes in adult life. And so we've been hurt too. That doesn't negate the hurt that men have done to women, but it's a little bit of a taboo subject. And why don't we discuss it? Well, it's not really socially acceptable to discuss it. And sometimes men together discussing this may feel like it's weak. Maybe there's a little bit of that taboo as well, that as men we can't talk about the ways we've been put off center or shut down or hurt, or these wounds we carry around women. And then I think the third thing that kind of makes this challenging is that we're social isolation today. There's a lot of social isolation because of COVID and the situation that we're in. So we're not really connecting so much as people, and we don't talk about these things. We're all kind of traumatized in isolation. So we get triggered and we don't know what to do with it. So that's a little bit of what the dynamic is. How does it show up in life? Let me give you a few ways this can show up for guys. There's a book written maybe I don't know, a few years ago called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and he talks about the nice guy syndrome. So it's one of two things generally happens for us. It shows up in relationships. We either become, when we are put off base emotionally, when we are knocked off base, triggered is another word for it, we will either become the nice guy or become reactive and abusive. So we tend to go in one of two extremes. So that might be something you're curious about. You say, well, what do I do when I get emotionally derailed in the presence of a woman? Do I become the reactive, abusive guy? And that could be verbally abusive or big, loud, physically abusive. I mean, there are many ways that we can hurt each other and hurt women. Or is my reaction to become a nice guy? Well, let's talk about what I mean by nice, right? I'm not holding nice as a particularly wonderful quality. Nice is small and weak, and it's that feeling that we have when we kind of disappear into ourselves. And this happens to a lot of us, right? So we don't want to be angry, and we can't really own ourselves and speak up. So we become small, we become nice. This is not to be confused with kindness or love or caring. Those are things that come from us in our empowered selves as men and women. Yeah? So let's not confuse nice with kind and loving and caring. So nice has that disappearing quality, a kind of avoiding, shrinking quality. So that may happen. Another thing that may happen, how does this show up, this dynamic show up in our life, is, well, the blame game. We find ourselves blaming. If you find yourselves using a lot of blaming language for what's wrong in your life, how did it go wrong? It's his fault. It's her fault. She did this to me. It's her. I can't believe, once again, I have no power. She did it. Or we blame ourselves. So when we find ourselves in the blame game, it's something to notice. This is how it shows up. And it's not very empowering, blaming. In fact, it's not empowering at all. Kind of takes us into a loop of frustration. So that's the next thing I want to talk about. It may show up in your life as numbness, frustration, or depression. When relationships with women do not go well, when we don't feel empowered in the presence of the feminine, man, that's big. And we may feel numb, depressed, frustrated. And so intimate relationships with women tend to feel one of two ways. Either they're too much or never enough. And you may notice if one of those two triggers happens for you, too much or never enough. So in the presence of a woman, I may feel that she is way too much. Oh, she's too much. I can't handle her, right? Oh, she's too much for me. I got to shrink down, right? Or I can't get enough. There's not enough. There's not enough love. There's not enough women. There's not enough life. There's not enough time for me to, be in my masculine power. It's never enough. Both of those are really frustrating ways to be in relationship with women. And I mean that whether it's a family or work relationship or a romantic relationship. So you might want to see one of those two dynamics. Another place that this shows up, being triggered and knocked off base by women, is in family, with our sisters, with our moms. How are those relationships doing? If we're not empowered with women, it may show up there, and that can wreak a lot of havoc in a family where we don't feel present, we don't feel empowered, we don't feel a part of, and so we disappear. We have the holidays coming up very soon, and this is often where the fireworks start to happen. Or maybe you just shrink and disappear. Maybe you just don't want anything to do with it. That's another dynamic of what happens when we get emotionally derailed in the presence of women. And then the last way that it may often show up is simply in our work relationships, right? So in our work relationships where a lot of fields these days that were traditionally dominated by men have not only become egalitarian, but now a lot of them are dominated by women. Some careers, so we may find ourselves in work relationships where women are our peers, a lot of times where women are our peers. And so learning how to show up in a way that's empowered as a man Well, this can be really confusing and really challenging. What in the world are the rules? How do I be a man in the workplace? How do I show up empowered but not dominant? How do I claim my space? And we still often carry a little bit of a social ingraining that we as men should step back, right? So we should step back and make space for women. Now, that can come from two different places, right? That can come from courtesy, empowerment, love, compassion, or it can come from a shrinking kind of place. And that's not going to go well, my brothers. If you're feeling that show up in the workplace, that you've got to shrink and you can't be you, you can put whatever face on that you want. It's not going to go well, ultimately. So that's a frustration point. I know a lot of men who get frustrated in the workplace. In peer relationships, or if they have a woman who's a boss, then that triggers all kinds of other things, right? So this is a way that lots of havoc can be wreaked in our life, and when we allow ourselves to be triggered and set off base, when we do not come into a healthy, right relationship with women, right? So that's kind of what I'm sharing with you, is the cost is high. When we do not come into a right relationship with how can I be an empowered man, what at core we call a noble man, a healthy man, a self-possessed man in the presence of women, right? And by the way, it's another talk for another day, but that's what women want, right? Women don't generally want a nice guy. Women want to be in relationship with a man who is a noble man, who's self-possessed, who knows who he is, not dominant, not abusive, but not shrinking, and certainly not nice, right? So that's who we want to be, and I mean in all relationships, work and family, and in romantic relationships, kind of the three categories we're looking at today. Well, what's the cost if we do not claim this? What's the cost if we do not claim who we are, if we allow ourselves to consistently be knocked off base in the presence of women? The cost, my brothers, is, and I'm not trying to be dramatic, is your life. It's your whole life, right? Because if we do not claim who we are in the presence of women, then we spend our time shrinking with half the population in the world. And that can make us miserable, long-term miserable, depressed, numb, and we can forfeit a life of peace and happiness. And so the cost is high, and we may never find a satisfying relationship, you know? You're one of those guys, and we've all been here from time to time, where it feels like we're in the loop of the same thing over and over and over, right? The same kind of relationship dynamics that keep repeating themselves. I'm always feeling disempowered, or it never goes well, or it's always her fault, or I'm always doing the same thing. Man, that can go on for a long time, and it can lead to loneliness. So the cost can be really, really high. Now, I say all that because that's the work we do at CORE, is helping us as men and women navigate this dynamic in a way that's empowered and vigorous and life-giving and fulfilling. So I say all this because there is a way through. But first I want to tell you what doesn't work. And you may already know from some of your experiences what doesn't help us. What does not help me not get derailed in the presence of women? What does not help me claim my healthy self, my noble man in the presence of women? Well, one thing that doesn't help is perpetually thinking about it. And this is one of the challenges for men. We do like to think a lot. We like to problem solve and ruminate. There's that problem, that process of thinking about something over and over and over. Well, you may have noticed, we think about something over and over and over. It doesn't usually end up to actually solving the problem. A very good friend of mine down in Southern California calls it mental gymnastics. I spent a lot of time in mental gymnastics. So ruminating, thinking, that doesn't really help. Problem solving in that way doesn't really help. The second thing that doesn't really help, as I said earlier, I'll just touch base on it again, is blaming. Whose fault is it? It's her fault, it's my fault. It's the question of who's at fault is not really very helpful, right? So that doesn't really help us. We can talk about, how did I receive the wounds I received with women? And that's important. There is healing to be done around that. What happened to me in my childhood, in my life that wounded me? And we do want to shine a light on that. I'm not saying to bypass that. But that's different than blaming and not taking responsibility for myself. Yeah. So what we're talking about is taking responsibility for my life and to stop the blame game. And the third thing that really doesn't help that you may have looked at is acting out in forms of addiction. And there's so many forms of addiction these days, whether they're, you know, recognized psychological addictions like alcoholism or something like that, or sex addiction, or if it's, you know, just being stuck on the internet for hours at a time, or shopping, whatever those things may be. When we act out, we get ourselves caught in addiction. You may have looped into that before, and that usually ends up in shame, doesn't get us anywhere, and doesn't help us. So those are some of the things that do not help us. What is the solution? I want to give you 3 powerful solutions to not get knocked off base in the presence of women. Okay, here they are. First one, pause. Pause and bring awareness to it. If you find yourself getting emotionally derailed, you want to stop and ask, get in touch with, oh, what just happened? So we don't want to skip over it. It's a powerful pause just to say, oh, who was there? What was the situation? What was the interaction? What just happened? What did I say? What did she do? What was the look? What was the comment? And notice it, right? So that pause. And you can see this in a work relationship, in family, or certainly in romantic relationships. And see the cost that's actually costing you in your life. So you want to allow yourself to pause and bring awareness to it. And then the second thing here is to see, what's it costing me to live this way? And I really mean that. What's it costing you to get perpetually knocked off base, emotionally derailed in the presence of women? Well, here's some places it could be costing you: emotionally, mentally, or physically. Emotionally, right? A lot of pain, a lot of loneliness, a lot of sadness. Mentally, a lot of thinking about or trying to problem solve, or as I said, blaming. And then physically, right? So when we sit with these situations for long periods of time, when we sit with being disempowered and we sit knocked off base, it can really take a physical toll on us. So that's the second thing. You want to really notice the cost, because once we start to notice the cost, we're like, okay, I want to change this. That's my question for you. Do you want, if you find yourself emotionally derailed, knocked off base by women, do you want to change it? And I hope you'll get yourself to the point where you're like, yes, enough. And here's the third, what I call the Big Bang solution. This is the big one. This is the game changer. The pivotal moment is you put yourself in a situation where you are in the presence of competent, caring, mature, loving women, right, who can help you navigate this. And they are there, right? Those women are there. To be in the presence of women who will help you as women navigate and bring awareness to their own acting out and your defenses, and to do it with love. And that takes maturity on the part of a woman and a man, right? To step into that place. That is a game changer. To put yourself in the presence who are aware enough, women who are aware enough, loving enough, and mature enough to help you. And it makes all the difference in the world. And so that's what we've done. And that's what I want to share with you. The fourth invitation here, the fourth thing I want to offer to you is this is what we've done at CORE, is spending years creating circumstances and facilitators who can help you do just that. And this weekend, coming up just a couple days from now, is the Men's Immersion Weekend. And I really encourage you to check it out. I will put a link somewhere here in the comments, right? And yeah, I'll put a comment right now. You can follow this link and check it out. This is a link to the Men's Immersion Weekend. Is a 2-day event. It's held virtually, so you can attend it from anywhere in the world. It's facilitated by women, really skilled women. These female facilitators who've gone through our training and are willing and able to hold a caring, loving space so you can dip into the cost, the pain of getting knocked off center, to see what's going on there and test out what it's like to be in your power as a man among women. It's a 2-day, Saturday, Sunday online training, but it's experiential. So it's not just a sit and lecture situation. So if you sign up for the Men's Immersion, we'll send you some literature, some things you can do to help yourself set up the space that you're in, wherever you're going to be experiencing this, in a way that'll make it really valuable for you, that you can experience it in a really deep, centered way. And then you get to go on this journey with us. It's not a lecture. There'll be some teaching, but it's sharing, it's experiences, it's being guided by these women in a vulnerable way, in a way that's just so extraordinarily empowering. And, we've led thousands of men through working through their stuff with women. And it's an incredible journey. So we use psychology, neuroscience, and spiritual practices to help you dig deep and discover how you get to stay grounded, centered, empowered in the presence of women. And uh, it's a beautiful, wonderful experience. And um, you can you'll have the opportunity to pause and get in touch with exactly what's going on for you, what we talked about. You'll have the spaciousness there to experience what is it? What's happening? What does it feel like? We don't even have time in our lives usually to pause and experience it. So we'll create that spaciousness for you to experience it. Say, this is what's happening to me. Whoa, this is what happens when I shrink in the presence of women, or when I act out. This is what's going on, and this is what it's costing me. And then you get to be guided and loved and cared for and tended to in this courageous space by these wonderful women facilitators. So it's the Men's Immersion Weekend this weekend coming up. I encourage you to sign up for it. Follow the link. The information is there. And don't let the cost be prohibitive. We tiered the cost so that any man can come. We want you to come if this work speaks to you and you want to heal your relationship with women and step into your power in the presence of women, however they're coming at you, with all their joy and challenge and gold and shadow, as we like to say, all those different colors. How can you stand there in your power as a male, as a man, and step into the best version of yourself, your noble man self? That's what this weekend is about. And I encourage you to check it out so you can experience all the things I just told you about. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. And thanks for this opportunity to share this journey with you.